What's up, guys? We are back with another NECA Toys review, taking a look at the first wave of Alien 40th Anniversary figures. So we got the big chap already as kind of a way to kick things off, but there are 3 waves coming, one to Target, one to specialty stores, and one to Walmart. And we've got the first wave at Target, which is sort of hitting sporadically now, and I finally came across them. So we got 3 figures that we're going to take a look at in one review. So we've got Dallas, and then we've got Ripley, and we've got the prototype Xenomorph suit. So it's basically your Alien, but it's done up in kind of a creamy white color. These things are very much retro style as far as packaging goes. So you've got them all done up in a very Kenner style of packaging. You've even got the NECA logo down there, but done up in the Kenner font and everything. So I dig the packaging here. The boxes do seem to be a little flimsy though, but as far as aesthetics, they've kind of nailed it. So we've got them all here in the same format type of box. So figure in the window, the Alien logo, Kenner style logo down there on the bottom, and then you've got product shots on one side, the Alien logo on the other, and then the back of the box is all similar across the board. You've got the logo, a shot of that specific figure, a write-up, and then cross-sell down at the bottom for figures in this wave as well as in the future waves. So let's do it. Let's pull them out and take a look. And here we go out of the package. So this is our full Target wave of the 40th anniversary of Alien figures. And I don't have a lot of the old Alien stuff, and these guys have all been released before in one way or another. So I think they were all done, at least Dallas and Ripley, right, in the 35th anniversary. And I don't know if the prototype Xeno was in there or not, but it's definitely been released before. These are all just changed up a bit. So if you want some new improvements in some ways, or if you just plain don't have these figures, this is your opportunity. So we're going to take a look at each one individually, of course, because they are all very, very different figures. So we're going to start with Dallas and see what he has going on, and then we'll work our way through the trio here. So we've got Dallas here in his spacesuit, and I'm not so sure this is the version that I think of when I think of Dallas, but I do really, really like these suits. Like, they just scream Alien to me, so I'm really happy that NECA decided to do this. And you know, they did release a few different characters that have suits, and they have again released this figure before, but this guy is a little bit updated. I don't have those older figures to do comparisons to, so we're just going to talk about this one. So we've got a head that can look up and he can look down. It's just a ball peg, so typical NECA stuff. Side to side, pivot's pretty good there, and then full rotation. The shoulder pads here are attached to the torso, and they're just rubbery, so they'll follow the arm as it goes up, and then it rotates. You do have a bicep swivel up here. We've got a single jointed elbow. It really doesn't afford a great deal of range because, again, you know, this thing is so puffy and big. It's a spacesuit, so it's not unexpected here. I'm not really upset about that. And then you've got rotation. Ball pegs at the wrist, which afford actually quite a bit of movement because the wrists kind of stick out a little bit because of these gloves. So they go forward, backward, side to side, all that. And then full rotation. Torso is a diaphragm cut up top and then a waist twist down here as well. So he can go, you know, twisting side to side at the waist just a little bit because this box is in the way, but then the diaphragm will help you move a little bit more. You do have some tilt side to side. He goes backwards and then he goes forwards. This piece is soft, so it will kind of move out of the way. You can hear him creaking and squeaking, I'm sure. There is a thigh cut up there at the hips. Legs go out pretty much all the way. They will kick forward. You have to twist them to kind of get around these pouches though, and then they kick backwards. And then you've got a single jointed rotating knee. They only go back about that far. Again, more of the same kind of stuff with those elbows because of the puffiness here. And then you've got ball pegs down at the ankles for rocker, hinges, and rotation. Honestly, it's pretty good. Like, that's not too bad for how much business is going on down there. So for a character in a really, I guess, old style futuristic spacesuit, he does move okay. He is limited, but it's not outside of the realm of what makes sense for this design. Now, as far as the aesthetics go, I am very much on board with this figure because, again, this design screams Alien. I still am not sure that if I only had to choose one version of Dallas, that this is the one I would want. But I really like this figure, and there is a lot going on here. I mean, there's a tremendous amount of sculpted detail, tons of paint, tons of washes, dry brushing, the whole deal. I mean, you can see just how many different colors are on this figure, from browns to blacks to coppers, pink, gray, red, white, the whole deal. The whole color spectrum basically is exhibited on this figure, and I think NECA did a really solid job. You know, I don't have the old figure to compare against, but I can tell that there is a lot of work put into the design and the sculpt on here, from the oxygen tanks on the back to all the little buttons and nubs and nozzles, the hoses that we will connect to the helmet here shortly, and then you've got just all the padding and the various design work on the suit itself, from the lines that run down it to the pouches to all this kind of cross stitching, and then the knee pads, the elbow pads, the wrist pads down there, even all of the wash and dirtiness on the gloves, and then on the suit itself, because everything's got kind of a dry brushing or a wash in it to bring out just how old and used this suit is. And then of course you've got a lot of patina and grit and grime on the shoulder pads and on his instruments here, on the box on his front, and then you've got the chest piece here. And I really dig everything about this figure. You know, it looks exactly like it should. There's a ton of detail in terms of sculpt, in terms of paint, and it just shows that there is a lot of effort put into making this guy look as old and nasty and kind of worn down as his suit looks in the film. And then we've got this head sculpt to top it off, which is definitely one of the areas where there has been improvement. I'm pretty sure we've got photo printing employed in this particular instance, and I believe Ripley has it as well. But this Tom Skerritt likeness is honestly really good. I'm very, very happy with the way this looks. The skull cap that he's wearing looks really nice. A lot of kind of wash on there. But it's all about the face. It's all about the likeness and the paint on that. And I think that they did a really fantastic job. I mean, this screams Tom Skerritt to me. It looks exactly like him. So I'm really, really happy with the way this turned out. Again, I don't have that older figure to compare to, but there's no way it holds up compared to this, because I think this is definitely a top tier NECA human face right now. They did a bang up job on this one. Now for Ripley, she is a very, very different figure from Dallas. Definitely not even remotely the same, because she is more normal. She's just wearing her jumpsuit, her flight suit, so she's not in a big puffy costume. So we've got a head that can look up. She does have a bit of hair, so it does kind of hinder that, so she can look up a little bit. She looks down a little bit of tilt side to side, and then rotation. Her arms go out at the shoulders. They do rotate, and then you've got hinge and rotation at the wrist, or at the elbow rather. That's an elbow. At the wrist, we've got ball pegs, so she got a little bit of tilt, and then you've got rotation. I really wish that these were hinges though. After messing around with the accessories on this figure, I really wish that was a hinge. You've got a diaphragm cut that goes backwards, forwards, side to side a little bit, and then rotation. It is kind of tight though, so you're gonna have to work with it. And then you've got legs that go all the way out. They kick forward all the way, they kick backwards. You do have a thigh cut up there. We've got a single jointed rotating knee. They only go back about that far though, so not 90 degrees. And then you've got ball pegs down at the ankles here, but they're done at the top of the laces, or the bottom of the shoelaces rather. So you've got a little bit of rotation, and then you've got rocker and a little bit of hinge. These are definitely a little bit too limited for me. So she's kind of what I expected her to be, as far as just kind of a standard human figure, not nearly as restricted as Dallas is, but she's also not too much more dynamic as well. Now for the aesthetics here, there is definitely one area where I know this figure has gotten some attention, but for the most part, I think she looks pretty good. This is, again, a pretty basic figure by comparison. Put her next to Dallas and she doesn't even really stand out, because she is just in a flight suit and a jumpsuit. But it does look good. I mean, it definitely looks like her, so there's not any issues there in terms of, the likeness not being correct for the suit. So the color looks pretty good. It's very rich and saturated. You've got the patches on her shoulders. Her undershirts are there, and then you've got all the little kind of just folds and wrinkles in the fabric, the zippers all over. Her shoes do look really good. I'm pretty happy with the way these turned out. They've got a little bit of wash on them to bring out just a little bit of that sculpt, make them a little bit grimy, but not necessarily dirty. And then you've got a ton of detail on the back here for the back of her jumpsuit. So it's kind of plain. It's nothing, too crazy in terms of sculpt or overall shelf presence, but it certainly looks how she should look from the film. The big thing, though, is definitely this head sculpt, because this is an area where they actually changed the sculpt. The first figure does not have the open mouth, as far as I can tell. So this is a new sculpt, it seems, but it's also got some photo printing by the look of it. And there is in some ways, like, it looks like her, like from the side, I think it looks pretty good. Maybe at a bit of an angle it looks good, but dead on, something about the eyes in conjunction with that mouth doesn't necessarily work for me. I do think, however, that they are very much playing up a certain idea, because she certainly looks startled or surprised. So it's kind of a different expression for Ripley, a different way to utilize this figure, especially if you've already got the original one. So you can maybe have two different setups. but the overall expression sort of loses me at sometimes. But it looks okay, like right there, that kind of looks okay, but when it's dead on, something about it just does not necessarily hold up for me. The hair is really good though, sculpt is nice, there's not really any wash in there to bring it out or anything, but it certainly looks really good in the light. So I suppose that this one's probably going to be better off depending on how you want to pose her. Just for me, in my money, right up front, straight ahead, she kind of loses it a little. And then we've got our Xenomorph. So this figure, I'm really having a tough time of figuring out exactly what it is, because it very much looks like it's the ultimate big chap, but it doesn't have all the same articulation, at least in one specific spot. So I'm not sure if there was maybe a running change on that figure, or if this is just a change in its construction, because for the most part, it pretty much seems to be the exact same thing. Again, I don't have the original one to compare to, so if somebody knows more definitively than I do, please let me know. I'm sure you're already typing in the comments. But let's take a look and see what this guy can do. He does very much seem like an ultimate Xenomorph. So you've got a head that can kind of go backwards a little bit. It's already basically as far back as it's going to go, and then it goes down, and then it can twist side to side. You do have the tubes to deal with, as usual, so watch out, don't rip them. You know, like this one right here, it's going to do any further and you're going to rip it. The arms go out at the shoulders. They rotate all the way around. You've got your double jointed elbows here. So these are, you know, the NECA style double jointed elbows like we saw most recently on Casey Jones. They work really well on Xenos though. I love the way they are implemented on these kind of figures. So double rotating, double hinged elbows there. You've got hinges and rotation at the wrist, so they move all the way around. We've got a big crazy diaphragm cut here. It's a ball peg. So he goes backwards and forwards and way far side to side, and then full rotation. And where he's different from the Ultimate Big Chap, at least the one that I have, is in the crotch. So the Ultimate Big Chap has ball hinges. This guy just has a ball peg that connects to the joint. So it's a ball peg, but he goes all the way out, and then he goes forward, and then he goes backwards, but it still allows you to cut at the thigh. And then you've got your double jointed knees, which also do rotate. And then you've got your ball pegs down at the ankles for rocker and hinges and rotation. You've got your toe joint as well. We've also got rotation at the top of the tail, the base of the spine. You've got your bendy wire as usual. And then of course, if I can get it to come out on camera, you've also got your inner mouth, inner jaw up there in the head, as is pretty much always the case with a Xenomorph. So, I mean, he moves really well, and he basically seems to be exactly the same kind of figure as the Ultimate Big Chap that I previously reviewed. The big difference, though, that I can call out is the fact that those hips are a little bit different, but they work seemingly just as well. They just are a different style of joint between the two figures. And when it comes to the aesthetics, the overall look on this guy, again, it's more of the same. It's very much your typical Xenomorph style and look, but he's done up in a very unique color scheme. So he's done up in this kind of off-white cream color, but the figure in general is translucent. It's just got a ton of wash on it. So it does very much look pretty cool. I mean, I'm really happy with the way this looks. I can say right off the bat that if this had been the look in the movie, I very much would have not been nearly as excited by the look, because it doesn't look as intimidating as a black Xenomorph. That is hands down not even up for debate, but it does look pretty cool. Like, I'm not against it by any means. It's just not as menacing or evil looking as our standard black one, but he does look nice. I mean, it's got all that telltale NECA sculpt giving off that Geiger vibe, so the very biomechanical look and feel. He's got a great size, great shelf presence. You know, he's got all the tubes coming off his back, the the exposed skeletal frame and everything. Dig the bendy wire tail as usual. You've got the exposed head case up here, so you've got the clear top, and then you've of course got some silver painted teeth with the inner jaw, all the kind of cabling and tubes that run off of the back to the head, and it's just a cool looking figure. You know, I really was happy with the big chap as it was, and I really like this guy as well. He's just different. Again, not necessarily as menacing, but still a cool sculpt and still an awesome figure. Certainly will look good against your other hordes of NECA Xenos. Now, as far as accessories goes, these two come with a pretty solid array. There is nothing with the Xenomorph which isn't too crazy. That's pretty normal in most releases. So to start with, we've got Dallas, which has his helmet, and I guess technically this might not necessarily be considered an accessory, but you don't have to use it, so I'm going to consider it one. And this thing is really nice. It's two pieces, so the top comes apart from the bottom, and then you can just pop it on his head. Like, there's really no issues putting it on. You can twist it to the side and then put it on, or you can take his head off and put it on. That also worked just fine. So no issues moving it around. It's got great sculpt on it. Really small details, a great copper kind of patina wash on it. And then of course you've got a spot on the back for the 2 small tubes that I mentioned, but it just looks great. It's got a great size to it. And again, it's one of those things that looks very old, futuristic kind of look. He's got the, this is a flashlight, right? I just can't remember sometimes. And so this thing is just basically a little box with a handle on it, a little bit of silver paint for some smaller details, but it looks good. He can hold it just fine in his left hand. And then you've got his gun here, which has a really nice sculpt on it. Very unique, very different. A little bit of silver wash on it as well as some red accents. So this thing looks really good. And he does have a little holster for it over here. It kind of just slips in. And he can hold this guy in his right hand. It does sit kind of precariously for me so far, but it's not really going to fit in his left hand. So the right is specifically meant for the gun. And then as far as Ripley goes, she has got quite a few things. And I do believe that some of these are new. I don't think that they were all in the original release. So to start with, we've got the flamethrower, which is the reason why I mentioned I wish she had hinges on her wrist. It would have been, I think it would have been easier for her to hold this. Otherwise, she does hold it well enough in a two-handed pose. The handles on it are just really, really big. But there's a good sculpt. I mean, it's got the strap, and there's a nice wash. Good paint details, no real issues with it, sized really well. We've got the little tracker device that she uses. So this thing's really big and beefy. Ton of small detail on it. Like there's a ton of little bits and bobs all over this thing. Again, something that looks very old, future tech, and she can hold this really well. Also in her left hand specifically works a little better for me, but they should both be fine. And then we've got the cat carrier here. So this thing has a ton of detail on it, and it's also got a cat inside of it, which we'll talk about. So a lot of little sculpt, a lot of little paint details, and it does have moving parts, so you can pop the hatch off, and then the top will open. And we've got a new Jonesy in here, which looks really, really good. As far as little cats go, I'm really happy with this guy. Sculpt is nice, paint details are really good. He does have some articulation. I'm not sure if the tail is supposed to move. It's definitely a separate piece, but it kind of feels like it might be glued in there. Mine does not really want to move, so I'm not going to chance it. The head, however, moves really well. It twists all over, and then it can go, you know, fully sideways to have him kind of standing still, but looking off into a different direction. He can also look up really well also, and, you know, it's just a nicely done piece. I think he looks really good. So I'm really happy with the overall array of accessories here. I'm not surprised we didn't get anything with the Xenomorph, but everything that these two come with more than make up for him not having anything. So yeah, for the most part, these are pretty solid figures. My only real gripe with anything here is the fact that Ripley's head for me is not the best. I definitely wish it had been a little bit different. I feel like something about that expression kind of loses her likeness in certain angles. She looks relatively okay to the side or at an angle, but dead on, something about it is a little bit not correct. So otherwise, I'm pretty happy with these. Dallas looks fantastic. The head sculpt there is amazing. The overall body is incredibly well detailed. They both come with really solid accessories. And then, of course, we have a Xenomorph, which is more of the same good NECA quality. So I'm really happy with him. And I should mention, because I know I didn't mention it previously, none of these figures needed heat. I know I shouldn't have to say that, but it is something to talk about. None of them needed to be heated up. They all moved really well out of the box, even the Xenomorph. So I'm really happy with pretty much everything here. Had a good time with all three of these, and they're definitely going to look good once we get the entire set of 40th anniversary figures. So that's going to do it for this look at the NECA Toys Wave 1 40th anniversary Alien figures. Let me know what you guys think. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and share, and until next time.